Welcome to How to Become a Production SQL Database Administrator. My name is Raphael. In the previous video, I demonstrated to you how you can use Windows User to log on to the SQL Server and then navigate to the databases and so on. In this particular case now, I'm not going to use a Windows domain user, but I'm actually going to create a SQL Server login to directly connect to the SQL Server itself, bypassing the Active Directory. So as you can see here, this is my Active Directory with the users, and I do not have a user or a login called Mary. So I'm going to bypass the Active Directory and I'm going directly to the SQL Server. I'm going to go to Securities, and if I click on Logins, again you'll see that I do not have a login called Mary. So I'm going to go right-click, New Login, and this time I'm going to select SQL Authentication. Obviously, before we want to do that, we want to make sure that we do have the mixed mode set up. And as you can see, we do have that. And as I've mentioned earlier, that if you get that error indicating that you cannot log on, and this is probably the reason, because you've probably got server authentication Windows. So make sure you check that and restart it. So now that we've clarified that, let's continue. So right-click, Login, go to SQL, and I'm going to call this Login Mary. I'm going to give her a password, and it's got to have to be complicated. It's going to have to be complicated because I'm enforcing the password policy here. So this is SQL itself passing this policy, enforcing password policy, password expiration, and then obviously I've also checked user must change password and log on. And then if you go to server roles, she's part of the public server role, and that's fine. User mapping, so I'm going to allow her to access the database Windows 2012, Windows Work 2012. I'm also going to make her a database reader. So rather than giving her individual access to the individual tables, now she's going to actually have the entire database and be able to review and view every single table. Now, obviously, this is for demonstration purposes, but in a production environment, you may be selective. But I just want to illustrate that if you want to give some access to, if you want to give an individual or a login and access to the entire database and all the tables within it, rather than giving them one by one, this is the role. And we're going to be talking about database roles in the next coming videos. So for right now, we're fine. Securables, we're good, and status, she can log on. So now if I go OK, a login will be confirmed. So this will pop up. The password and confirm does not match. That means that obviously I have not matched it. And I'm doing that deliberately because I want you to be aware of the few of the errors that are coming up. And so I'm going to go Mary again. And this time I am going to match. And we'll just go OK quickly on that one, and database reader, and go OK, and this time it'll work, and that's fine. So now you can see that the SQL login for Mary has been created, but you also note that if I go to the database, and if I go to AdventureWorks, and if I go to users, you'll also see that that's been mapped already. So in that one process, I mapped it. I didn't do it individually. And now let's see if Mary can log on. So I'm going to go to Connect, Database Engine. And remember, she doesn't have an account there, so we can only use an SQL Server authentication. And I'm going to change the password and go OK. And let's see if she can connect. And again, remember the option we checked that she must change her password, so she has to change her password. So this is the reason this is coming up. And we want to do that also. We want to enforce that. This is the best practice. So she has it. Now she can access that database or the server. So let's look at the database, AdventureWorks, and look at the tables. And again, she has access to all of them because I placed her into a database role called Database Reader. And she can now read every single table in this particular database, as you can see. But can she delete? Well, let's look. Right-click, delete, OK, And of course she can't, because I did not give her that permission to delete. I only give her permission to select. So this is how you would give an SQL login access. Now obviously we've discussed what SQL login is, and when you would apply that is primarily for an individual or an application that's not going through the Active Directory. And in this particular case, it'd be most likely an application that you're setting. So you may well talk to your developers and your third-party vendors and see how they want to set it up. But if they want a SQL login to be directly connected to your server, then this is the method you would use. I'm just using Mary as an example. And that's it. So now one more thing. So I'm going to now drop her. So I'm going to go to Securities. I'm going to go to, let me get her out. I'm going to go to Mary. I'm going to right click and delete the login. And obviously this message pops up that it does not delete the users in the database. Go OK. And it won't drop. So let's look at the AdventureWorks, Securities, and Mary. So let's drop her first as a user. And that's dropped. Now let's go to the SQL Login, right click, delete, and OK, and OK. And again, you'll see that it's failed. Why is it failed? Because it's in currently being logged in. It's currently in use. So how do we verify that the session Mary is still active? Remember, we go to new query, and remember this proc sp who, execute, go all the way down, find Mary, and she's got 2 SPIDs. So we're going to have to kill those processes. And the keyword is simply kill. Kill 55 and kill 56. So I'll just copy that and 56. So we can do it one at a time though. You can't do it simultaneously, I don't believe. So kill that process, kill that process. Let's look at SB who again. Go all the way down. We should not see Mary running, and we do not. And now if we go right click, we should be able to delete her. So these are the few things that you need to be aware of if you discover, hey, you're trying to kill a process and it's still not working, or a user's continued logged on because of a process. Then you need to go to SB who, find the SPID, and kill it with this command. So this is how to create. And now I'm going to delete that obviously, or disconnect, because she doesn't exist anymore. So that's how you create a SQL user login for applications or for individuals you need to access that do not have a domain Active Directory. Now, I'm going to illustrate that entire process using T-SQL. So let me go to File, I go Recent Ones, and SQL. So again, I will be providing you with this script. So if I go to Security, Logins, let's refresh it. I do not have Mary. If I go to Databases, AdventureWorks, Security, Users, refresh, I do not have Mary. So now, in order to create a login, not using the Windows user, use the master database. Make sure you're in that, point to that database. And this is the keywords. Create login for the person you want to, or the application, Mary, with password. Give it the password. Must change means it will change the password. Default database is master, leave that is. This is the expiration check policy, expiration check, and then the policy check. So if I execute this and run it, you'll get an error. And what is that error? The error indicates password validation failed. The password does not meet Windows policy requirement because it's not complex enough. Remember when I said that when you check password complexity, then this password must have upper cases, lower cases, and multiple uses. So now I'm just going to change that P to a capital P. And now I run it, and it should satisfy the complexity, which it does. So now I'm going to use the database, AdventureWorks, that I want to execute. Make sure you're on it. There we are. And now I'm going to create a login. So we've gone through this before. Create user Mary for login that I've already created. And I'm going to execute. And now that she's a login and she is a user, I'm now actually going to alter the role and add her to the database role. And the way you do that, you say alter role, the database role that you want her to be added in this case is DB_database reader, and then add member Mary. So now if I execute that, she's part of the database role, and this means that she can review all the tables within that database. So let's see, double check and confirm that she can log on. And remember, as soon as I enter her password, I should get a window pop up. Oh, let me just check, make sure we get the proper authentication. Yeah, let's look at what we did for her password. Password 123. So I'm doing password 1234. So that's why it's not working. So that's always important. So let's connect again, and it's 1234. Password 1234. Sorry. All right. Now it's getting a little frustrating. 123. Password 123. Let me just copy this. And there we go. And now I'm going to type in something. Password 12345. And there we go. And we just to validate that she can review everything in the database, and then we're good to go. Great. And can she delete? She should not be able to, and that's okay. So this is the script that allows you to create a login using T-SQL. So I always like to give both the GUI version and how to do it this way. So these are a few problems that you may get, some of the pop-ups you should be aware of. So it's always good to get them here in demonstration. So it allows me to teach you how to resolve them. And that's it. So I'm going to leave it there. In next video, we're going to start talking about roles and groups, and then we're going to cover also permissions. So I'm going to leave it there, and my name is Raphael, and this is how to become a production SQL database administrator.